Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking the guesswork out of pricing. We're going to take what is usually a pretty dry academic economic formula and transform it into your absolute superpower for maximizing business revenue. Let's get right into it.
So here's the ultimate entrepreneur's dilemma. It's the one question literally everyone selling a product or service has to ask. If you lower your prices, are you actually going to make more money? I mean, it sounds intuitive, right? Lower prices should automatically bring in more customers. But let's put you in the shoes of a gym owner facing a really tough pricing choice, just to see how this actually plays out in the real world.
All right, imagine you're running this gym. You decide to drop your weekly membership fees from $30 down to $20. And wow, suddenly it works. Your memberships absolutely surge from $200 all the way up to $600. Assuming all other things are equal, what economists like to call ceteris paribus, this looks like a massive win. You've literally tripled your clientele. But here comes the math plot twist. This is exactly why the basic formula fails us. It seems like a huge win on the surface, but when we calculate the price elasticity of demand to truly understand what the consumers are doing, we hit a massive roadblock. You see, the basic economic formula for price elasticity is just the percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in price. So, if we calculate that price drop from $30 to $20, the math tells us quantity jumped 200% for a 33.3% price drop. Economists drop the negative sign, giving us an elasticity coefficient of 6, meaning a 1% price fall caused a massive 6% demand increase. Incredible, right? But wait, if we use those exact same numbers to calculate a price hike, going from $20 back up to $30, our quantity drops 66.7% over a 50% price increase. That gives us a totally different elasticity coefficient of just 1.33. You absolutely cannot build a solid pricing strategy on a metric that completely changes just because you reverse the direction.
So we need a fix. Enter the midpoint formula, our tool for finding true elasticity.
To address this really frustrating mathematical flaw and give us numbers we can actually trust, economists developed a sort of hero metric. We need a way to measure demand sensitivity that honestly doesn't care if prices are going up or down. So instead of dividing your changes by your starting price or your starting quantity, this midpoint formula calculates elasticity by dividing the change in quantity and the change in price by the respective averages. You're essentially finding the exact middle ground between where you started and where you ended. By averaging those starting and ending figures, this formula gives us a consistent, rock-solid coefficient no matter which direction the price moves. Using the midpoint formula, we find that the true price elasticity of demand for our gym scenario is definitively 2.5. So, whether you raise the fee from $20 to $30 or drop it from $30 to $20, the elasticity remains a steady, reliable 2.5.
Next up is the total revenue test, where we start visualizing the bottom line.
Now, how do we translate this abstract number of 2.5 directly into actual impact on your bank account? Because let's face it, knowing your elasticity is only useful if it actually helps you maximize your income. This brings us to the total revenue test. To make this crystal clear, we'll use a super simple color-coded legend to map out our total revenue changes. Pink is going to represent a gain in revenue, blue will be a loss, and green means your revenue is completely unchanged. So dropping that gym price from $30 at point A down to $20 at point B actually creates two opposing forces. The blue box you're looking at represents the money you lost by charging your original 200 members less. But check out that massive pink area. That is the revenue gain from 400 brand new members signing up. The pink gain far outweighs the blue loss, so your total revenue goes up. This happens because demand right here is highly elastic. Consumers are super responsive to your price drop. But hold on, look what happens if we keep dropping the price along a totally different segment of the curve. If we drop from $30 at point E to $20 at point F, the whole dynamic flips on its head. The blue area of lost revenue now heavily overtakes the pink area of gained revenue. Basically, even though you got more members, the heavy discount you just applied to everyone totally destroys your overall income. In this range, demand has become inelastic. So, the crucial takeaway rules are neatly summarized right here. If your demand is elastic, meaning the coefficient is strictly greater than 1, dropping your prices will actually increase your total revenue. But if your demand is inelastic, so less than 1, dropping prices actually hurts your bottom line. Ouch! And if it's perfectly unitary elastic, exactly 1, changing the price results in absolutely zero change to your total revenue. Now for a big one. Changing elasticity, because elasticity is definitely not constant. This brings us to a really vital realization, something a lot of business owners miss entirely. Elasticity is not just a single static number for your whole business or product line. On a straight-line demand curve, your elasticity is constantly shifting. At higher prices, demand starts out highly elastic, right? Dropping prices here boosts your revenue. But as you keep lowering the price, you hit a sweet spot right in the middle, unitary elasticity, where your total revenue actually peaks. If you drop prices any further past that point, you enter the danger zone, the inelastic zone. Here, further discounts cause your total revenue to just plummet. You can literally discount yourself right out of profitability. No way we want that.
Let's look at extreme demand scenarios, exploring consumer behavior at the absolute limits.
To truly master this, we need to step back for a second and understand what consumer demand looks like at its absolute theoretical limits. Like what happens when consumers are infinitely sensitive to price or completely insensitive. Well, a perfectly elastic demand curve is just a flat horizontal line. In this scenario, raising your price even slightly drops your sales instantly to zero. Consumers have infinite sensitivity. Conversely, a perfectly inelastic demand is a vertical line. This means you will always sell the exact same quantity, say 20,000 units, no matter what crazy price tag you slap on it. Consumers will pay literally whatever it takes.
Which leads us to the determinants of elasticity. What actually makes consumers react? So what actually dictates where your product falls on this spectrum? What makes your product highly elastic, like a rubber band, or highly inelastic, like a brick wall? According to the economic principles we're exploring, it really all boils down to three core consumer variables. 1, how easily they can replace your product with a substitute. 2, how much of their paycheck it eats up. And 3, how much time they have to adjust to your new prices.
Let's look at that first factor, substitutes. For example, the demand for Hyundai cars is highly elastic. If Hyundai raises their prices too much, consumers can easily switch to a close substitute. They'll just go buy a Kia, a Toyota, or a Mitsubishi. No big deal. But the demand for cars in general is way less elastic. You can't easily substitute a car for a bicycle if you have a 30-mile commute. So the more narrowly you define a product and the more substitutes it has, the more elastic the demand.
Furthermore, we really have to look at the share of the consumer's budget. If an item takes up a massive slice of a consumer's income, like paying rent or buying a car, they are forced to be hypersensitive to price changes. They're going to think very carefully about alternatives because a 10% increase represents a lot of real hard-earned money. On the flip side, tiny budget items, like a little container of salt that makes up a fraction of a percent of their budget, remain highly inelastic. A 10% price hike on salt, it's not going to change consumer behavior at all. Nobody's sweating over an extra 10 cents. Which leaves us with one final powerful thought. By viewing your business through the lens of elasticity and the total revenue test, you are no longer throwing darts in the dark. You're actually engineering your own success based on consumer math. So the next time you sit down to adjust a price, are you acting on pure instinct or are you calculating your true elasticity? Think about that before you offer your next big discount. Thanks for joining me on this explainer and keep maximizing that revenue.